Coming up on the Balls Deep podcast, I'm going to talk about Dricus versus Izzy, that huge fight, and then a couple other fights on that card. Erceg, was that a heat check for him? What's next for Dan Hooker? And did Izzy lose his touch, or is Dricus just that good? Then we're going to talk about the Fighting Nerds, this new gym on the rise, these new guys, these new hotheads, the new Jackson Wink, I'm saying. Carlos Prates' KO win really sealed the deal for those guys' legitness. Then today's card, Robert Valentine, Maidan Santos, two guys that I got to interview, both fight for the Ultimate Fighter Championship later today. I mean, literally later today from whenever you see this. I'm excited for those two fights, really excited for those two fighters. Then Jared Cannonier versus Caio Borralho. Huge fight, huge main event for both these guys. Must win for both. I think Cannonier is getting counted out. I think some people think he's too old, but then again, the Fighting Nerds are on a rise. Then around the UFC, Pereira takes a huge short notice fight for 307. Tom Aspinall keeps talking shit about Stipe and John Jones. And the BMF belt between Max and Ilya. What's going on with that? Let's get right into it. All right, Steve Erceg lost to Kai Kara-France this past Saturday. Kai Kara-France is number 4 ranked guy. Steve Erceg, 8th ranked, 9th ranked now, I think something like that. It's a shame. I think it might have been a heat check for Erceg. Like, obviously he fought Pantoja, gave him a hell of a fight. Everyone was like, all right, Erceg's like, should have won. He made that one mistake in the last round. He should have won that fight. And then he gets knocked out by Kai Kara-France. It's kind of a bummer. You know, I was really big on the Erceg train. And now I'm thinking maybe I jumped in too early. I think we got to see Erceg win another fight. Obviously, we need to see him win another fight before we can count him as legit. I used to say he's legit. Maybe he's not, which is a bummer for him. I really was excited for his future, maybe a rematch against Pantoja, but now we see Kai Kara-France make a huge climb, pushing his name into that hat of names in that division that need a title shot, especially with that division being so wide open. I mean, anyone can get a title shot, like Steve Erceg did when he was ranked like 10th or 11th. I don't know how he got that. Anyways, Kai Kara-France, great win. Excited to see that guy fight Pantoja. Next, probably not next, they're going to bring in that Risen guy from Japan Japan, which is exciting. Then, a huge upset. Dan Hooker gets the win. A lot of people were counting him out. I counted him out, personally. I thought Gamrot had him. I thought Gamrot was going to either sub, take TKO. I think Dan Hooker was too old for it. I thought his time was out. You know, he hasn't been in the top 5 since 2020, and now he's right back in. He jumped 6 spots after his big win to the top 5, pushing Michael Chandler down to 6. Michael Chandler, that's a bummer. Should have fought more in the last 2 years, but whatever. Dan Hooker's back. A lot of people are talking about him fighting Charles Oliveira next, which would be very interesting. I think Oliveira needs a comeback win, and Dan Hooker being in the top 5 might just be his best bet at that comeback win rather than going to another weight class like he's been talking about. And now I want to talk about Izzy Adesanya. It's really a tough situation we're in right now because we see these fighters, you know, I call it the Tony Ferguson effect. Tai Tuivasa is on a 5-fight losing streak. Tony Ferguson himself is on like a 9-fight losing streak. And now Izzy finds himself on a 2-fight losing streak, losing to Sean and now Dricus. If he comes back to fight, who would he fight? I don't know. Would he fight Khamzat? Would he fight Whitaker? I'm not sure who would he get. You know, obviously he bumped down in the rankings a little bit, but who would he get next? I'm not sure. Who really wants to fight Izzy right now? It really is tough to see what's his future. A lot of people are saying that he should retire, which is pretty intense, but again, we don't want to see what happened to Tony Ferguson happen to Izzy, where you go on this unfortunate losing streak trying to find the one win to end your career off, and it never quite comes. So I hope that we see Izzy in another fight sooner rather than later. Hopefully it's his last. Unless he wins, then he might go on another title run, but I think his time might be over. And Dricus, a lot of people were saying that his awkward, unorthodox style is just not it, and he's completely proven everyone wrong. It works perfectly. You think he's gassed. I thought he was gassed. Going in that 3rd round, he looked gassed. If Izzy could have stayed up through that 4th and gotten to the 5th, it would have been 2-2. Izzy was fighting well. And then out of nowhere, Dricus just hits another gear, and all of a sudden you're on the cage and you're getting caught with 2 rights to the face and you're getting a chokehold. I mean, out of nowhere, the guy's strong as hell. He gets it done. He's really a beast. I mean, he's really proven everyone wrong. I can't say I'm not picking him in whatever his next fight is, unless Pereira comes down to fight for that belt, which would be pretty intense. I want to talk now about Saturday's card, today's card. Robert Valentin is fighting this weekend on a real UFC fight, his debut. This guy is probably the scariest dude I've ever interviewed in my life. I mean, he has a quote where he says that his arms were made to wrap around people's necks, and how he dreamed and slept and thought and breathed rear naked chokes. So this weekend, I'm really excited to watch him actually perform live. It's really been a great time following his career through Ultimate Fighter, and now finally seeing him live fighting. And same with Maidon Santos. Maidon Santos is this stud striker from Brazil who just really picks his shots well. And the guy he's fighting, Khan Offley, is a legit Australian beast. Good on the ground, good on the feet. It'll be a great fight. That one will be more of a better fight than I think the Rob Valentin one is. Robert's fighting a guy named Robert Loder. And Loder, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. He's pretty good, but I think this fight's for him, you know. He had this crazy clip at the press conference where he was saying how he was in a certain mindset and he went up to the mountains in Sweden and Norway, and the gods came down to him and told him that they chose him as their fighter or their warrior or something like that, and they wanted him to bring them blood. I don't know where this guy comes up with these crazy stories or quotes, but the guy's scary. I mean, the guy is going to be fun to watch. He's intense. He's got the tattoos. He's got everything going for him to become a superstar in this promotion, and I'm just very excited to watch that happen. And lastly, for the Saturday's card, obviously there's a bunch of other fights, but I want to talk about Jared Cannonier's fight versus Caio Borralho. This fight's interesting. I think Cannonier's last fight versus Imavov, you know, I made a video. I thought it was a terrible stoppage, super early, ridiculously early. And Cannonier didn't deserve to go out like that. Now, here comes Caio Borralho, this huge name, this huge up-and-coming name. Not really a huge name yet, but definitely the new kid on the block. Wow, Cannonier's 40, you know. And the fighting nerds are on a roll. Caio's on a roll. 12th ranked. He's getting a top 5 fight. It's what he wants. It's what he needs to get into that title contention. And I just think people are counting Cannonier out. Cannonier is plus 200, something like that, to win. I just think the odds are too... It should be more of a pick 'em, I think. I think people are really sleeping on Cannonier. You know, he's got the strength. He's got the takedown defense. Caio doesn't really shoot anymore. He doesn't really go for takedowns. And I think that's the only way he's probably going to win, or by decision if he goes the distance. While Cannonier's got the power. I think Borralho hasn't fought anyone as competitive, as high level of a competition as Cannonier. While Cannonier's last 5 fights are all against the big dogs. So I think that will be a big advantage for him, which I'm excited to see in that fight. So I'm going to go with Cannonier to win this fight. I think people are counting him out. His last fight was a fluke loss. It was an early stoppage. I think he was going to win it. And yeah, that's my opinion on that one. And I'm excited to watch Jared Cannonier hopefully have his hand raised, because I think his story's not done yet. You know, Caio Borralho has time. He's a younger dude. But Cannonier's story's not done yet. I think he can still compete with the big dogs. Maybe not win a belt, but definitely can get a title shot. And if it doesn't happen this weekend, his career's kind of over. I mean, he's 40 years old. He's going to lose to a guy who's ranked 12th. That kind of seals the deal on him. So this is a must-win fight for Jared, and I think he knows that. And I think that's going to bring a different animal out this Saturday, or tonight, later tonight. Then I want to talk about what's going on around the UFC. What's going on outside of this card and last week's card, and because a lot's going down. Pereira takes this crazy short notice fight against Khalil Roundtree. Jamal Hill is classically pissed off about that. He said that it's undeserving. Roundtree got tested positive for some illegal substance and now he's getting rewarded. Yada yada, whatever it is. I like the fight. I think Roundtree's great. I think Pereira is obviously one of the best, if not the best in the world right now. Do I think Roundtree's going to win? No. Do I think Pereira is probably going to knock him out in 1 or 2? Yes. But they needed a fight for 307. Who else to step up but obviously Pereira, who's stepped up countless of times by now. And Roundtree, I'm excited to see him fight. He's a super strong dude who's pretty good at taking down defense. who's great at striking. It's going to be a striking masterclass, I think. But I do think Pereira is going to take that one. Tom Aspinall is speaking about how Stipe is injured. He keeps saying that Stipe is injured and that he's ready to step in at whatever moment, which was all blown away by, I think Ariel Helwani said that it was all BS, 100% not true. Stipe is ready to go against John Jones. And I'm excited to see what happens. I do think John's going to win. Obviously, I think John's a lock to win. I'm excited to see the odds for that one. I don't think the fight is signed officially yet, but Jones wins this fight, gets his hand raised, Aspinall's front row. What's that interaction going to be like? You know, is Jones going to retire with Aspinall in his face saying, like, fight me, like, I'm ready to go? Because it really is a tough dagger at the end of his great career if people think he's ducking Tom Aspinall. I think Tom's right there. If Jones doesn't retire after the Stipe fight, there's only one fight for him. It's Tom Aspinall. If he doesn't take it, then he's kind of officially ducking Tom. But if he does retire, what do we do with the belt? Does it just go right to Tom? I feel like it has to, which I'm excited about. So I think some interesting words will be said after the Stipe Jones fight. So really make sure to tune into that. And lastly, the BMF belt. I've always kind of disliked it, and for this reason, I really dislike it. Apparently, or I think it's confirmed, Max versus Ilya, featherweight belt's on the line, BMF belt isn't on the line. And I just don't get how that works. If you're the BMF, you put it on the line every time. I think that's the whole point of the BMF, baddest MF. And for a guy like Max Holloway, I don't know why he's not just putting it on the line. Like, it's kind of cowardly, I think. No, I mean, I'm obviously not calling Max Holloway a coward. I just think it just goes against the whole BMF aesthetic. You know, BMS will put everything on the line for a fight. Whatever. That's my thoughts on that. I dislike it. I'm excited for that fight. Obviously, Max versus Ilya, that's probably will be the best fight of the year. But yeah, the BMF belt. I mean, you got to put it on the line. You shouldn't have a choice, honestly. But I guess they don't want to go into a featherweight. I don't know. But there's no reason for it not to be on the line. I also feel like it's an American thing. They don't want a Spaniard getting it. So that's why they're not letting Max put on. I don't know. I really don't know why they're not letting him do it. It should be on the line every time. You know, Jorge Masvidal held it for like 2 years. What the hell's that about? I don't know. Anyways, quick podcast today. I just wanted to talk, get my words out. Sorry we couldn't get an episode out last week or no interview this week. It's tough. I just got to school in Boston and I'm excited to figure this whole thing out. I'm looking to interview a couple new fighters. Actually, my biggest target right now, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but Caio Borralho would be sick to have. Very excited about the future for this podcast and for the page. Thank you, guys.